The big boys versus the big magic in today's episode of Age of Fantasy Skirmish. Look how great these figures are. So much personality. The two ogres and the troll in the back come from the Demon World line. I think this giant is Splintered Light, but man, I can't remember. Same thing with this devil dog here. He counts as a saber tooth. Everybody you see on the table right now has got tough 3. Man, those Dwarven Slayers would have come in handy this time around. We have got a giant for a champion. He doesn't look like it, but if you hold these guys like parallel to the camera, he actually stands a full head taller than the ogres, which is really impressive. The little skulls are to scale for this guy, although now that I look at it, they must be goblin skulls, because look at this guy's skull here on this troll. It's a little bit bigger. Anyway, the leader is champion, so we got a giant champion with a heavy weapon, tough 6 on that guy. He is not going down easy. Everybody else is tough 3. The Sabertooth, of course, is fast, strider, tough. He's going to be ignoring any rough going we drop down. These two guys are the same stats. They're both Ogre Warriors, just 2 attacks at AP 1. And then this guy back here, he is called an Iron Warrior. Now, of course, he looks like a troll. Quality 4. Everybody here has quality 4, too. How about that? He's got defensive 3, and he has stone bones, which means whatever AP you hit him with, it gets reduced by 1. He just laughs at your AP to a minimum of 0, of course. And then he also has, is that it? He's got 3 attacks at AP 2. That's bonkers, man. So 5 units on the table. Each of these figures is its own unit. The Elves are not to be trifled with. They have a total of 6 units that they'll be bringing to the big dance. They are led by a High Noble. That's this fella here with the rainbow staff. And he has a champion with him. That's the guy that's pointing out where the bad guys are, as if you couldn't see him. Here, let's take a look at how big these ogres are. You drop one of these down in scale, they absolutely are enormous. They tower over these elves. Both of those 2 elven leaders are caster 3, so they got some pretty impressive spells. Now, drain, enemy within 9 inches takes 1 hit with AP 1. Quench, target enemy unit takes 2 hits. A lot of boom boom spells. I'm a little impressed. I'm using the high elf list. And then the 2 guys with the bows over here, those are going to be coast guards for some reason. They do have spears and bows. The spears have counter, and then in the back here we've got a unit of warriors with spears. So they do have the counter. When they are charged, they strike first. It eliminates impact, but I don't think any of the champions have impact, do they? They don't, so that's not going to do them any good. But the other unit over here, these are warriors with hand weapons. They just get the basic attack of 1. Everybody here has quality 3 except for the Lord, the High Noble, who has quality 3. And then we got a lot of defenses of 5, again, with the exception of this guy. Now, the champion, the High Noble, is the only one with toughness. No, that's not true. The Noble and the champion, these guys both have tough 3. So that'll be something else we got to remember. Anything else we should do? We got hero. We got a couple of heroes. Both of these guys are heroes if morale checks come available. And that's one of the things I've been slacking on is morale. At the end of a round, if you're down to half of its starting units, see, that's the thing. In Skirmish, I generally don't hit that point very frequently because units are so sticky. These guys have to lose, when they're down to 3, if they lose 3 of their units, and generally by the end of the 4th round, I've only lost like 2. But in this case, if we have to make any morale tests, that quality test is, anybody within like 12 inches of these guys is going to have that +1. We are back into the Elven Village. The stream is dangerous, except for the ford here and the ford there. Of course, rough going for wherever the forests are. The trees and the houses are impassable. You can't see through them. The hill, of course, is rough going as you're moving across it. And when you're on top, let's say you can ignore 1 piece of terrain, or you can shoot halfway into here. In other words, you can shoot over this house or over the tree, but you can't shoot over 2 houses or 2 trees. I think it makes sense. Let's find out how many objective markers we have. With a 2 + 2, that's going to be 4 altogether. We also need to figure out deployment zones. We'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, and around the horn. 1, 2, 3 means we'll be coming on the east and the west side. The white die goes first. The white die is the elves, I should say. The winner will deploy the first objective marker. The Elves get to deploy the first objective marker. The Elves want to keep these objective markers with nice wide open fields of fire. They do have the only distance shooting on the board. The Ogres are happy to drop theirs kind of in the middle, so they put one there. The Elves respond with a second one kind of near the middle, but surrounded by wide open fire lanes. And then the Ogres say, you know what, we've got the strength to just barge over that stream, and we've got our Hellhound doesn't care about rough going. Let's put one right on top of the hill. Might come to bite them in the butt because the Elves want to be up here, so they've got good fields of fire. But again, that Hellhound versus 2 archers, that might be the kind of fight that the Ogres like. Let's find out who gets the first deployment, shall we? With a 6, the Elves get to deploy first, and of course, they're going to take this side of the board. After the usual sort of back and forth, we've got the Ogre leader in the center right here. His 2 Ogre friends on the far side of the table, the Stonebreaker and the Hellhound. I think it's classified as a saber-tooth, but giant red flaming wolf. We're going to call him the Hellhound for today. Over on the other side of the table, the Elves have opted to take this side, and again, we've got our leader way off here on his own, the 2 units of warriors with the spears up front to fight defensively, and then maybe those swords come in for a little counterattack. The 2 archers on the road, they've got a long field of fire, and we're counting on this spellcaster to slow down the 2 big boys down there at the ford. And that's really what it all boils down to. The Elves, of course, have the first move, and with very little shooting on the table, this first turn of 4 will primarily be a moving turn. Just about everybody is gone. I have dropped a blue die next to each of the spellcasters, showing how many spell points they have for now. As you can see, the leader moved up to here. It's only 4.5 of his possible 6 inches. Rough going means you can only move 3 inches. I'm playing at half scale. I'm going to give you all of the scales in that half scale measurements. So where you typically would say, oh, well, they can only move 12 inches, shoot 12 inches. Here they can only shoot 6. Now the archers can shoot 24 inches normally. Here they can only shoot 12. After moving up 3 inches, you can see that this first Coast Guard is going to come up a little bit short, as is this one. A little bit of a mistake on my part for deployment. Had they deployed back over here, he might have been able to move up that little bit more. They could catch these guys on turn 1. There will not be any shooting, except I haven't moved the champion yet. That Elvish champion might have a shot. Except that all of his ranges are a mere 6 inches. So he's going to want to move up to within 6 inches. We'll bring him straight up to here. Again, the spearmen probably wanted to seal that gap because these 2 ogres are going to come barreling on through, at least one of them. At this point, turn 1 is over, and we turn the page to turn number 2. The Ogres finished moving first, which means they get the first activation here on this second turn. And lo and behold, wouldn't you know it, they have a lot more options. Oh, I guess I should point out that with this archer stopping here, the Elves will seize this objective marker, and the Ogres will take control of number 3. 2 and 4 are up for grabs. Yellow for the Ogres, and purple for the Elves. Remember, this saber-tooth can move 1 inch to here. He's got another 7 inches of movement. He's going to be able to charge all the way up to here and grab objective number 4. That's his first activation. That puts him pretty close to the leader of the Elves, but that's okay. He's got reinforcements on the way. The Elves, with their first activation, can bring this coastie up 3 inches, and now he is absolutely within range of one of these 2 ogres. It doesn't really matter which one. Let's go ahead and shoot at the near one, just to keep it fairly simple. The High Elf Coast Guard has a range of 12 inches. He's only got the 1 attack, but he does have a quality of 4, so he takes the shot. Where's a good place to roll it? How about right there? And he gets the hit on an ogre with a defense of 4. And he rolls, it's cocked, let's roll it again, a successful defense. That means play kicks over to the Ogres, who are going to rush up to here, ready for action. And then we can take a shot with our second bow at this guy. And once again, hitting on 4s, a 3 will be a miss. And the Ogres can bring their leader up to here, where he doesn't have to worry about getting hit. But he really wants to keep these swordsmen honest. The Elves get to go next. Let's bring... Now here's the question. Do the Elves really want to go for number 2? You only need one objective marker and to, like, fight for the other 3. So why don't we get a little bit clever here and bring this champion 3 inches over to there and 3 inches over to here. We're going to bring him up to there, and then just behind the Elvish house there. And then he is within, well, we need to bring him to within 6 inches, don't we? All right, so we're going to have to bring him over to here to keep him within, oh, you know, I know, I take it back. He is within 6 inches of this guy. That's as far as he can get, and there's no line of sight. We need to use some of these spell points, guys. And that means there's really only one thing for it. We're going to go up and we're going to challenge for this objective marker. And we're going to drop a spell. Why not? We've got 6 spell points, and we're going to cast Tempest. Target 2 enemy units within 6 inches. They each take, just to prove, there's our range. We're within, well, it's within 6 inches. All right, now this costs 3 points. So that's going to cost 3 of his spell points. He's going to juice it by 2, which means he will be successful on anything but a 1. So he's going to drop 2 hits on each of these 2 ogres. And the nearest ogre is going to make his defense save. Look at... Thought we were closer to the table edge than that. He is looking for 4s. He's going to get one, fail the other. His friend in the back is also going to be looking for 4s. He's going to get one and lose one. So a couple of wounds, great spell, well cast, but he's in big trouble now because both of these guys have to activate. And the first of them will rush up, stand right on the point, the objective, and go to town. He has 2 attacks at AP1. And with Snake Eyes, he gets nothing. The champion has not attacked yet. He can counterattack. And even though he's got 4 attacks, correct me if I'm wrong here, guys, he only gets to make 1 counterattack. With his quality of 4, he is going to land 1 hit, and the Ogre is going to make his save. So the Ogre has to fade back, and that is going to allow the Elves to take a turn. So these swordsmen will come into contact with Mr. Troll, resulting in 3 attacks at quality 4. The Elves are no slouches in the melee department. They're only going to get 1 hit on the Troll, who will make his save, and then counterattack. No, he's not. He's going to wait for his turn. So he drives them off. And, oh no, he will counterattack, won't he? He has not attacked yet this turn. He just moved up. So he's going to score a single hit, and the defenders defend on a 5-up. So he smacks one of them off the table. These guys don't have toughness. Any hits remove a figure until they are down to the last figure. Then the Elves get to go again, and, the Elves have to drift back, and the second Ogre will come up to fight the champion. Now, this guy also has... they should take the wound marker with him. So we're back over here at the ford. Let's see if we can get that in focus. And once again, the Ogre is going to lead with his... What does an Ogre attack with? Just a basic Ogre warrior. Still has 2 attacks hitting on 4s. And he's going to get 1 hit, which the Elf will defend with a 6. He is defensive. He's fatigued, so he can counterattack, but he will only hit on a 6. With the result of a 2, he's going to miss, and that Ogre is going to have to fade back. But at the end of round 2, nobody controls objective marker number 2. And I think that's it for the Ogres. Everybody is gone, but that's not the case for the Elves, who still have at least one more unit. Both archers fired. And this last unit gets to go. No, there's 2 units. The spears get to go. They're just going to come and defend their little sword brethren right here. They're going to block off this road. They're going to stop an inch away. A half an inch away. They basically did dare this troll to come at them. And that leaves the last action for the turn, which will be the Elvish High Noble, who has 3 attacks at AP1. And he can move a grand total of 3 inches. All he can do is advance. If he advances to here, then he can cast the same spell we saw over at the ford, and that gives him the opportunity, if he spends all 5 points, remember he needs a 4 or better, but he is at +2 to the roll, so a 2 or better, he'll get off that Tempest. With a 4, he's successful, and of course he's going to target the enemy leader and the enemy doggo right there. That's 2 hits per. The enemy leader has a defense of 4. That champion is going to save one of them, and the Sabretooth has a defense of 5, and he'll save none. So 3 wounds drop down, and 2 on the Sabretooth, 1 on the leader, but here at the end of turn number 4, the Ogres are going to grab their second objective. Where's my yellow gems? So we'll put 1 here. And over at the ford, we've got both Elves and Ogres. That's the end of turn number 2. The Elvish spellcasters get 3 more casting points. And so far, the magic is all that's happened. The Ogres, of course, get to go first. And we're going to start with... That Elvish hero is terrifying over there. I think we want to try to knock him out before he can charge. He's got a lot of attacks. So we're going to bring the first of our Ogre champions in to try and crack him on the noggin. They still have 2 attacks at AP1. I think I forgot the AP1. But with a quality of 4, it's not going to do any good. And the elf says, I'm not going to counterattack. I'm just going to hang back here, because I'm going to activate next. And when I activate, I can cast, let's see, I can go ahead and cast Drain, which costs me 1 point. I can juice it by 2, which takes me down to 1. And then, on anything but a 1, I get the spell off. So we'll roll for that. Oh, maybe you couldn't see that die before. He gets a 6 on that. So the spell goes off. Enemy model takes 1 hit, and he's going to attack this Ogre. I guess it doesn't really matter. They're about the same. We'll attack the same Ogre that just attacked us. In fact, that's probably the smart play. This Ogre is already attacked. So we're going to target him. We get the 1 hit with AP1, and that is going to be a failure. So the Ogre takes a 2nd point of damage, which opens the path for the Elven champion to rush in and attack him. So the first thing that will happen here is the High Elf champion will make 4 attacks. I got to zoom out a little bit so we can see all these dice. The Elf champion has a quality of 3. So 4 hitting on 3. He's going to hit 4 times. And that's on a figure that already has 2 wounds. Then that figure, now there's no AP on that, is there? Yeah, there is an AP of 1. So the Ogre Warrior's defense goes to 5, and he's going to fail all 4. He's going to be up to a total of 6 wounds, and the only way he stays on the table is if he rolls a 1. I'll roll it where you can see it. He rolls a 6. So that Ogre is going to get knocked out of the game. Now here's the question I have for you. Enemies within 1 inch, 2 inches in the full-scale game, may counterattack. I don't think this Ogre wants to do that, though. I think he says, I'm going to wait until you... I guess he's got... But, so what does that mean as far as fading back? He won. He killed the guy. He can now step up, and I guess we just bring him back a little bit just to avoid confusion. But we all know what's going to happen, is this Ogre is going to attack back. So whoever wins this fight will be left standing on the second objective. That ogre, of course, is going to have 2 attacks with a quality of 4. And he's going to land both of them on a champion who's got 2 attacks with AP 1. So the champion now, his defense goes to 6. And he's going to make 1, and he's going to fail 1, which gives the champion his first wound. That will force a wound check to see what happens. And with a 5 plus 1 for the wound, that is a 6. He is going to be knocked out of the game. I think that's probably a win for the Ogres, but they have suffered a whole lot more attrition than the Elves at this point. And since we're already over here, we might as well go ahead and see this Elfie guy right here? He could take a shot, and that is exactly what we'll do. We'll take the shot, the 24 inches, quality 4. That's going to be a miss. Then the troll is going to fade back a total of 4 inches. He says, I'm just going to defend this point. You guys come to me. I'm not going to charge into those spears. You'll get the first attack. And we already control 3 of these objectives. You guys got to come to us. Well, okay, this archer says I'll step up to here, and I'll take a shot at this ogre. Again, hitting on 4s. A 1 will be a miss. And the ogres get to go. And they are going to make the elven leader pay for his hubris. First, we'll send in the battered Sabertooth. He's going to have 3 attacks with rending. Man, I didn't notice that. That might be a real problem. 1, 1, and 2. Quality of Sabertooth's got a quality of 4. That's not going to do him any good. The Elvish commander has not gone yet and says, why don't you just fade back? Because now I get to go, and I'm going to go on the attack. And let me show you how it's done, big boy. I have a total of 3 attacks at AP 1, quality 3. 3, 4, and 5 means you get to take 3 defense checks. And I've got AP 1, so you're only going to be successful on 6s. And he gets a 3, 4, and a 5, so he takes 3 wounds. That takes him up to 5 wounds. We roll a d6, add 5, we get a 7. He will be pushed back, and he will be badly injured. At -1 to hit, he says, I will only hit you on a 6, but I might as well check. Let's roll that again, and with a result of a 2, he is going to miss. So he fades back that 1 inch. Let's put him over here to free up room for the big guy who's only 3 inches away. And but we do have the ability to move a couple of inches. We're going to fade back to here because the big guy is subject to, he's only going to be able to move thus far on this turn. And that is, he's the last to go. So now the elves get to move their last 2 units, and that's the swordsman and the spearman. And, now that I think about that, I think I screwed this up down here. I think this leader cast a spell, and he really should have attacked on his activation and then slid around. So I don't think it makes that big a difference that he got the second activation. After, all it really did was give the Sabertooth a chance to attack him with his full abilities first. We may have cheated this Sabertooth out of 1 attack. I'm going to roll, and if we get that... No, because... Yeah, I think I'm just going to let that stand. But those of you that are already on the comments, I'm pretty sure I did that wrong. I know it. You don't have to elucidate it. Might have been 2 activations. Hey, we'll just chalk that up to the more magic. The only 2 things left to do are the elves. Let's talk strategy for a minute here. The elves, as we go into this next turn, this is still turn number 2. So they have some options. They can bring... why did I knock him over? It turns out the rocks over in the ford are very slippery. We're going to bring these spears up to here and set for charge. They now have the ability to move on either of these two objective markers. We're feeling pretty safe about this marker back here. In fact, that's what these two are doing. They're going to fade back on their turn to protect this rear objective marker. There she is right there. And what that does is it means that we've got maximum options for turn number 3. The Ogres get to go first, and this time around, the King is not going to play any games. He is going to take full advantage by moving in on. He has 3. I think I also underspent for him. He is only going to have 3 spell points. The Ogre King is going to smack him with his 4 attacks. Quality 4 for that Ogre champion. Looking for 4s, and just, boy, terrible dice rolls. He only scored a single hit. Which, and you know, I tell you the balancing factor here. I forgot. The Elf champion had tough 3. I forgot about that. I eliminated him with 1 hit. So if I give this Elf Lord an extra activation, that's the balance. It's kind of weak, but what are you going to do? So that's only 1 wound on the Elf Lord down here. The High Noble is going to take his 1 wound, and he is not going to counterattack. He'll let the giant fade back an inch, and then he will. We were at 3, 6, knocked down to 1, 3. Yeah, I kind of feel like this might be turn 4. It really feels like turn 4, but I think it's turn 3. So he's going to charge into combat, and he is going to take his 3 attacks at AP 1, and that doesn't count. So the 4 and the 6 will hit. The Ogre champion is going to, with a 5 and a 6, he's going to make 1 save, but that will be his 2nd wound. And then the elf has to drop back. Probably should have cast a spell. Oops. Well, at any rate, we're going to bring the Sabertooth into action. Oh, this becomes contested because there's so many guys around. Sabertooth now dives in and says, I have got a total of 3 attacks with Rending. See if we can do a little better this time. There you go. 4 big attacks on the Elven Noble. 4. Well, wait a minute. No, that's... The 6 is for Rending, which ignores regen, and unmodified results of 6 get AP 4. So 2 hits on the High Noble, only 6s will save. He's going to take his 2nd and 3rd wounds, and he's got to find out whether he gets knocked off the board or not. So we roll, and with a 2 plus 3, that's a 5. He is now wounded. That's the other thing I forgot. You know, I feel like I'm doing way better on the... He's only hitting on 6s. This guy right here is only hitting on 6s. And so is the Elf Lord, who says, well, I might as well try, but he gets his 3. So that's where we leave things. The Elf Noble is now rattled. He's shaken. What do they call it in this one? Yeah, shaken. He's at -1 on the rest of his attacks, but we've completed the fight on the hill. So let's look at the rest of the table. This archer will take a shot at the ogre here. Hitting on a 5 will be a hit. That ogre will try to defend, and with a 2, he's going to fail. That is only his 1st wound marker. I lied. That is his 2nd wound marker, and now he's got a difficult decision to make. The Stonebreaker down here, the troll, is going to defend this objective marker. Does this ogre just stand there and just keep taking shots until, the elves run out of room? Because right now, the game is in the ogre's hands. They've got 2 objectives to 1 for the elves with 1 contested. They're about to take a 2nd one. So he says, I think maybe we just wait for it. The other thing we could do is bring... So we don't want to move this troll off because the elves will just swarm it. So he says, you know what? I'm just going to hold. I'm just going to hang tight. And then the elves will get their 2nd shot, hitting on a 4. So that's a hit. The ogre says, well, no problem. We'll call that a 6. He will make his defense roll. And then the elves will bring these swordsmen over. They need to at least contest for this one on this fourth turn. So that is that may be a little bit of a problem because these guys, these swordsmen now, are going to be blocking the path for those elf archers. But we do still have one more unit that needs to activate, and that's our defensive boys. So we'll swing them around like so to prevent that troll from coming over to help out. And that's going to be the end of the turn. So as we move on to the next turn, the ogres get to go first. They have 4 activations, and we still need to look at the hilltop battle first. The ogre champion, sensing an opportunity, dives in to attack. When you're shaken, do you have -1 in your defense rolls as well? -1 to quality and defense. Halves its movement, can't seize objectives. You know what that means? That means this objective belongs to the ogres. And I think it's absolutely going to belong to them here in just a second. 4 attacks at AP 1. Quality 4 is only going to lead to a single hit. Would you look at that? And that Troll King has the Ogre King with an AP 1. The elf saves the only hit that he had. He is a tough son of a gun, isn't he? Only 6s. The elf says, you know what? Why don't you fade back? And then I am going to spend my entire turn getting rid of this. Getting rid of this. The ogre really needed to eliminate this noble. Now, that's the only thing he does, but that's really important. It's vital because by doing nothing and recovering, the high noble is going to now contest for this and deny the victory point to the trolls. The only other thing that might save the trolls is to bring the hellhound over, who will have his same 3 attacks, but he's only going to be hitting on 5s. He's going to get a pair of them, and the high elf noble will fail both of his defense rolls, giving him a total of 5 wounds. So we roll to see what happens, and a 2 plus 5 is a 7. He becomes shaken again, and that's really all they needed, because it means that this objective marker now belongs in the hands of the ogres. Since the ogre leader is the only one there that doesn't have a shaken marker, he controls it. The elf does have an opportunity to attack back. He is at -1 on this attack. That will be a hit on the hellhound, who is going to fail and take his 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th wound. Anything but a 1, it's eliminated from the table. So the second figure is eliminated from the table for the ogres. The only other way that the elves are going to be able to pull this off at this point is to force morale checks that cause the remaining figures to run away. I say that, but let's turn our attention over here. The troll here has an issue that may come up. But let's do a couple of things first. We're going to fire this arrow, plink, at this guy, and we're hitting on 4, so that's a miss. And then he says, I'm just going to stand here. He takes a second arrow, which is also a miss. And now the last of the ogres to go is this Stonebreaker. And he's got an issue, because if he rushes over, he leaves, well, he doesn't want to attack these guys. You know what he's going to do? He's going to move up just far enough that they can't seize the objective at his back, and he's just going to have to stop there. So now the ogres are guaranteed 3, but at 3 objective markers. I'm sorry, they're guaranteed 2. This battle right here for the ford is going to decide it all. So let's talk about what's going on here. The ogre had to stand his ground. He could have stepped off, but it really wouldn't make that big of a difference. Because if he moved off, an archer could run in and take this objective. So he didn't want to charge any of the enemies. He just has to stand here and take it. That does allow these 2 swordsmen to move in. They're going to get the first attack. The ogres currently control 2 objectives. The elves, 1. The elves need to kill that ogre in order to secure a tie. Any other result, the ogres win. So they have 2 attacks hitting on 4s. They're going to score a 5 and a 5, so that's 2 hits. The ogre has to save these both. He's only going to save one of them. He gets a 6 and a 1, and that means he takes his 3rd. We got to roll to find out what happens to him. With a result of a 1, he will stick around. He is now shaken, and regardless of what happens next, he can counterattack, but he's only going to counterattack on too many chips. Let me just put those behind him. He's only going to hit on normally he hits on a 4, but he is shaken, so he hits on a 5. He rolls the 5, and the second of the elves will fail his check and get pushed back. And then because the elves charged in, he has to fade back. And that means that this is at best contested because he drops back just far enough, or again, if he's right here, we would either way. The elves only control 1 objective marker. The ogres control 2 and possibly 3, depending on how you rule it. But it doesn't matter how you rule it because 2 is still more than 1. And the big guys, despite taking a beating in the first round, and despite having the advantage of me forgetting the toughness 3 for that elvish champion, they are able to hang on for the win. I made a few mistakes, but I think they really balanced out in this case. And I think that's a really good example of how this game works so well, even though different groups bring different strengths to the table. Some parties might have really high defenses, and some might have a lot of magic. They're flinging spells around like it's going out of style. Not that it did them much good in this fight. I think they really needed to keep those 2 spellcasters together. Maybe combined fire might have led to a better outcome for the elves, but it's hard to say at this point. Kind of a fun-looking table, too. I really enjoy this terrain. There's a lot more going on here than I realized when I set it up. Kind of like Age of Fantasy Skirmish by one-page rules. Get your copy today. Until next time, I'm praying for you.